Hello everyone and welcome to our next video. This video is part of a series where we are implementing a microservices-based social media application. And our main goal is to learn the microservices pattern and some of the main challenges that come with it, as well as some ways of addressing these challenges so that we can collect all the benefits or enjoy all the benefits while minimizing the challenges that come with microservices, or if not minimizing the number of challenges, at least addressing most of them as best as we can. I have put together a simple diagram, a very simple diagram, or two diagrams for that matter, so that we can track the progress a little bit better. Maybe if you are new to the series, you see that this video is almost the 30th video in the series, and you may be wondering what have we done so far and what we are still planning to do in the future. So because there was a lot of setup involved, in the first few videos we were working mostly with setup, we are now working on the authentication service. We then have plans to work in the front-end client, Kubernetes, Kafka setup, sharing some code through a dedicated package, and then start working on the notification service, which will send emails to the user. More specifically, we are now implementing the sign-up route, and soon we will implement the email verification route and start with a more detailed authentication logic. So we have the sign-in route, the sign-out route, and the current user route. In the front-end side, we have the setup of the project, some initial visual design, and then the sign-up and the sign-in page. And in the Kubernetes setup, we will have an introduction to Kubernetes. We will Dockerize our services at the moment. We will create the necessary deployments and the necessary services for them. And we will integrate MongoDB finally into our application. So far, we are using the in-memory server only for tests, and that's because we have a test-driven approach, which means that we are first writing tests, and then we write the production code that is going to make these tests pass. Of course, these are not the only parts of our application. We also have in the future a post service, a chat service, perhaps an account service. Depends on what we think over the time that will be relevant to implement. With that said, let's go back to our code. And in the previous videos, we implemented an email sender, which is a singleton class, meaning that can only be one instance of it. And maybe in the tests, we can see how this works. So the getInstance method is a static method which returns the instance if it is set, and if it is not set, we start it. Let's continue in this video with with two more tests that will start to bring up some problems, and in the next video we will address these problems. So let me start my test watcher. Give it a couple of seconds so that the tests pass. And the next test I want to implement is that it should throw an error without this space here. Should throw an error when sending an email if the email API is not set. So remember, in our discussion, we had two main components to the email sender. We have the possibility of activating and deactivating the email sender, and we have the possibility of sending emails, right? So these are the two main components we have up to now, but we also need something to send this email from, and this is what we'll call the email API. This can be a node mailer API. This can be some third-party API, as you wish. Here in this course, I will provide two alternatives. We'll work with NodeMailer to begin with, and then we will work with MailJet, which also offers a NodeJS API to send emails. There is a third one that we will need, and this will raise from our test-driven approach, but we will see soon where this comes from. In order to keep this straightforward, at least in this video, what we need to keep in mind is that our email sender needs to be populated with the actual API that is going to send this email, right? So first, I need to get my email sender, and this is going to be email sender.get instance. And what we need to do here is now to activate this email sender, right? And the moment we call the activate method, this is going to cause our tests to fail because we still didn't implement it. We will now then go back to the production code and we will write the method activate. And this is going to set this.isActive to true. So now the tests are not going to fail anymore. Exactly. What we need to do now is that we should throw an error when sending an email if the email API is not set. So within our validate email sender, actually, we need to write the test a little bit first, right? So let's copy here the test from above, and we would change this. We would expect the send email to throw an error that email API is not set, right? Because we didn't set it anywhere. So we have a problem because it does not reject, right? It does not throw an error. It doesn't complain if the email API is not set. And what we need to do in order for this test to pass, we need to first set this email API, private, let's say email API, right? And we need to then validate this email API within the validate email sender method. So now if no this.email API, we will throw a new error, which is going to be called a email API is not set. So here it's complaining that the email API implicitly has an any type, right? And this is one interesting thing of TypeScript. It requires us, because we are not really initializing it. So let's say if I initialize this to undefined, then it stops complaining because it will infer the type of the email API. But if I don't initialize it, it's not going to be able to infer the type. So instead of going to the easier way and initializing it, let's do this correctly, and we will export a type, or for that matter, maybe we will do some little migration here in the future to use interfaces, but for the moment we can export the type, which is going to be the email sender email API. And this is going to have a couple of methods within, right? So we don't know yet which methods we are going to have, but let's say that the first one we will have is send email, which is exactly the same that we have in the email sender, and this is going to take no parameters and return a void. Okay, so the idea here is that now I can type my email API as the email sender email API or undefined, and now the email API private attribute can be set to the, or its type can be inferred, and it doesn't need to be only undefined. So this will probably refactor in the future, but we know that we want our email API to actually be able to send emails, right? And here maybe we would have the exact arguments that we receive from this, so that the send email method within the email sender receives, and we would probably return also a promise with the email sender send email response, right? So this would be actually what we return here. And what we can do now is that this email sender email API, if we transform this into an interface, right, and we call it like this, then I can say that the email sender implements the email sender email API. Now, this may get a little bit confusing if we don't have a clear separation of concerns here. So for the moment, I will leave this as a type. I will undo mostly of this, and I will leave this as simple as possible. In the next videos, we will come back to this, and we will work these types and work these interfaces a little bit better, so that we can see that we have a good solution for our problem. But the important thing here is that now I am able to set, or I'm able to check whether the email API is set or not, and my tests are not going to fail because of TypeScript errors. Exactly, now we are successfully checking whether the email API is set or not, and we have an additional test in order to check and throw an error in case the email API is not set. With this, I think it's a good moment for us to stop this video. We will come back in the next video and we will implement our first test for sending the email. Thank you very much, and until then, bye bye.